Hi, I'm Forrest, and welcome to this episode of DIY Waterworld. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't seen part 1, here's a quick recap. Enjoy. So we start with this old, wide, tri-hull boat. I hacked the sides off of it, leaving just the bare center section. At this point, my neighbors think I'm absolutely lost my mind. I then proceed to do some fine-tuned cutting, trimming, and now fabricate these custom Divinycell sides and fiberglass them. Of course, you could always help out the channel and go check out that first episode. There is a lot in there that I didn't mention just now. So this brings us to where we left off. My first impressions, we've got the boat in the water and I am just mind blown. I'm so excited. I'm watching how the boat sits in the water, the balance. Yes, we haven't put the deck on it yet, but overall it is awesome. It is floating so light. Literally the back edges are barely touching the water. So we load up the boat. Our buddy Joe hops on board, Chelsea is filming, I am steering, and we go for our first test run. Right off the bat, holy moly, this hull is efficient. So with the 30 horsepower motor, partial throttle, the boat was cruising an easy 20 miles an hour. Got onto the gas, all it did was over rev around 32, 33 miles an hour, which was extremely sketchy. This was way more motor than I planned on. So, took the boat back. A couple days later, I threw a 25 horsepower motor on it with a better suited prop, and the results were 25 miles an hour cruising and topped out pretty close to 30. Overall, an incredible success. So now back to the building phase. I have trimmed the gunnels to be what I want. So this is what we're looking at so far. Got the console in there just for shits and giggles. This is a bow. Okay, so this is where we're at. Today's gonna be a huge day, probably the biggest day yet. No rain today, which is awesome. So we've got bilge, storage, fuel tank, and then what we're doing up here is we've got a 4-foot section. We're gonna cut center stringer out. We're gonna box this in and we're gonna insulate this to be an in-deck fish box. All right, so we got everything grinded and prepped. It's all about the prep. Getting ready to lay bulkheads. Basically what we're gonna end up with is sealed chambers throughout. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sealed chambers. Get everything ground down. Here you can see original stringer. That wood's in awesome condition, so we left them. I don't mind wood if it's fine. Adds to some structural integrity for sure. Gives it some weight, make a light boat like this ride better. So here we go. Okay, so a question I get asked is how to get contours. What's the easiest way to get a contour to cut a piece, mark it? The idea is to trace. So I can have this, imagine that it was attached, and I just simply follow the bottom, and that would draw the line and transfer. Something like this, that's this close. I generally just use my finger, make a mark. So I'll go like this. See that? That's how it works. One of the nicest things about using a core material such as Divinycell is that it's really easy to work with. You can cut this stuff super easy with any power tool. You can cut it by hand with a handsaw. You can shape it by hand using a rough grip paper. It's super awesome. So after I've cut all of my bulkheads, I now pre-cut all of my fiberglass strips. So I'm going to be using 2 laminations of 1708 glass. to tab in my bulkheads. As you can see, a lot of these bulkheads don't match, and that's because I've used spare pieces from past projects. So one piece might be laminated on both sides, another piece might just be straight core material. You know, here you can see all the mismatching colors. But the next step is I mix my resin with my aerosol. That creates my little peanut butter paste, and I can now slide in my pieces. I use that putty, and then I'm going to go wet on wet, which basically means I'm going to be able to wet out my fiberglass tabbing strips, and I'm going to just do everything in one shot. So I putty, and then I lay in my strips.
All right, so let's take a look at yesterday's work.
We've got bulkheads done. They are super solid. Holy moly. Digging it, digging it.
I could pretty much take the old console and lighten it, cut it down, trim it to where I want, and then I've got a little bit of dry storage added, and something just a little bit more rugged, comfortable for passenger. So let's hack it apart and see how light we can get it.
And the idea is the fuel tank is 14 inches wide, so we're really close here. So what we're going to do is cut out this compartment, essentially live well, and get enough width so that the fuel tank can be pulled in and out of here if needed. So it's going to take a little bit of cutting, which I plan on doing anyways.
Make it lightweight.
All right, now we've got a big enough opening. Sweet, trim it. And here's what we got. The new console. Bada boom. So for my underdeck cooler, I use scrap pieces of core material. Ideally, I would use a really low density for better insulating properties, but I used what I had. I put batteries on top of them after bonding to make sure that they were held down good. And then after that, I glassed everything in with 2 laminations and then gel coated. And this is the end result. For the next 2 days, you're gonna kill me, but I didn't get any filming done. I had GoPro issues. I used my phone for this one clip. I didn't want to get my phone dirty. But what I did was I got plywood. This was not marine grade, but I did laminate both sides. Once they were dry, I then bonded them onto my stringers and bulkhead system. And then I tabbed in the entire deck with 1708 and vinyl ester resin on all the corners, all the sides. Here you can see that I cut out my fuel cell compartment. I'm now getting ready to tab that in. After that's tabbed in, it's ready for gel coat.
Okie dokie. So quite a bit has happened since the last video on the Skiff. Probably saw testing. So the floors are done. So right now, just mounting the console. What I did was everything's grinded. It's being glassed in. And what you see there is bonding putty. So it's bonded. And now I'm going to glass the inside. So the console is now glassed in using 2 laminations of 1708 with vinyl ester resin. And let me tell you, if you've never had a console glassed into your boat, you are missing out. There is nothing sturdier, stronger. It makes you feel so connected to the boat. I highly recommend doing this, especially instead of screwing through your deck. So in back here, you can see the false transom that I've created. This is out of 2-inch Divinycell with 1708 and vinyl ester resin. Now I'm going to work on the edges of the boat and the cap. So you can see the gray strips. What those are is that's foam that's actually insulation foam for hot water heaters. Yes, you buy it at Home Depot. It's dirt cheap and it withstands resin and fiberglass. It won't melt away. It's a super cool hack. I've also created a little platform area in back using a piece of Divinycell, and I've connected the console to the sides. And then up front, I've used 1/4-inch plywood, laminated both sides, 4 laminations, a little rolled on gel coat, and we now have a finished boat. So I'm now going to give you a walkthrough, and then we're going to go on our final sea trial. Some of my friends have asked me why the front is like this. Everything has a reason. As a wave comes, no matter how curved it is, that bow essentially is just going to ride right up it. At that point, you're not slicing through a wave. I'd rather not bury the bow with a pointy bow. And with this, you can kind of see the contour. With the flatter front bow, you're more going to ride up the face of the wave instead of bury your bow into it. So this is the back area. We've got our fuel compartment in here. Hey, fire! The fuel tank sits in there, got a little lip for water so that it doesn't get in there. That is a sealed compartment. And then we've got the sides. So you'll notice on the sides of this boat, this is the entry for divers. So real easy that when you're in the water, you can just grab on, pull yourself up, hop right into the boat, and then same deal, swing your legs into the boat. I've got one on each side. Why is one shorter than the other side? This is the one that I use to just, if I want to climb to the front of the boat, all I have to do is step here, boom, I can get over that pretty easily. The intention here in this space below is to stash your gear into it. If I would keep the boat, I would put a little bungee net across just to keep all your gear. So that way it's real easy to stash your gear. And you can access it from the back of the boat as well. And then of course, the console. I haven't mounted this hatch. Real easy to get into the gas tank. This is the console that I lightened up. Step was actually going to be to do a panel across with a grab handle. Pretty important to have something to grab onto. And then working our way to the front of the boat. This is unfinished, finished. I guess finished enough for me. Here's the front of the boat. Still recording. Yeah, I mean, pretty self-explanatory, a lot of room. Let's go for a little cruise. I haven't really filmed much of the test runs, and I wanted to get some video. Let's go for a little ride. Cruising about 17, 18 miles an hour. Just, I mean, partial throttle. Crazy that we can cruise at about 18 miles an hour with just about a quarter throttle. And this is just with the factory prop that's got some dings and dents on it actually. So who knows what this thing could do with better prop. So yeah, thing rides awesome. Loving it. So to everybody watching, thank you so much. And for those of you that have liked or left comments in the past, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your comments mean the world, and they motivate me to continue progressing, getting better at doing these videos. I have so much awesome content just waiting to be uploaded. I'm stoked to share it with you. So if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, you guys know what button to hit. Let's see what it can do as a charge.
how well it rides. Just now, you saw in the video playing in the wake of a big cruiser. Anything I put this boat into, it just eats it up. I mean, it really is kind of mind-blowing. I had expectations, but this boat has far exceeded any expectations that I had. I mean, it cruises 18 miles an hour, just partial throttle. Over 20 miles per gallon is what I calculated it with the test the other day. Mind-blowing. Top speed 22, hit 23 a couple times. 19 plus foot boat with a 15 horsepower. How can you ask for anything more than that?